Hello, Jeremy here, or on this YouTube channel, I'm known as Dr. J. I'm here today to talk about the COVID-19 Forecast Hub. This hub is run out of Nick Reich at the University of Massachusetts Amherst Lab. I joined the team about a month ago, realizing they would need manpower just to power this hub. The hub has three main purposes. The first purpose is to provide forecasts in a standardized format so that we can compare different model forecasts. Number two is to take those model forecasts and create what's called an ensemble. That is to take all these different forecasts from different models and provide one single forecast that incorporates the knowledge of all of those models. And number three, this site uh, organizes data that is then sent to the CDC for the CDC's forecast for COVID-19. So if you look on this CDC site, you'll see plots that are very similar to the plot in this dashboard. There'll be a link in the description that can send you to the dashboard. The first time you get there, you will see this help menu pop up that tries to walk you through how to operate this site, but that's really my purpose in this video today. The other two links up here actually link to the exact same source, and they both link to the underlying GitHub repository that is the engine that drives everything that's going on this dashboard. In particular on this dashboard, we are focused on trying to provide week ahead forecasts. So that is, we aggregate data both for cumulative deaths and incident deaths across a week and then present the data like that. The week for us starts from Sunday and runs through Saturday. So just keep that in mind as you look at these data. As I mentioned before, we have two different pieces of visualization or two different ways to visualize the data. We have cumulative deaths here, but we also have incident deaths. So incident deaths are just the number of deaths that occurred during that week, as opposed to cumulative deaths, where the aggregate of all the deaths up to this point in time. We also have the capacity to look at all states in the US, as well as the national forecast, and I guess also the District of Columbia. And you can find those forecasts either by finding them in the list here, or you can just click on the map. And if you want to get back to the US forecast, you can just click on the map again on the same state that you had selected. The map does also show some information. It basically is a representation of the total number of deaths that have occurred in that geographical location, in this case in different states, although that's often largely driven by population. On the right side here, we have a depiction of the forecast. So first off, on the y-axis here, we have either cumulative deaths or incident deaths, depending on which target you've chosen. And then on the x-axis here, we have actually a double x-axis. The top one is the epidemic week, sometimes called the MMWR week. And this is just a standardized notation for the week that the CDC has come up with so that each week number occurs at about the same time every year. So currently we are here in week 21. The second x-axis here is probably more intuitive, right? It just has the months where the tick mark represents the first day of the month until you get to the first day of the next month. So here we are in mid to late May. On the right side of this plot, we have a legend. The legend can be toggled, but you don't get to see much more, so probably just leave the legend out. And on this legend, you can select a couple of different things. You can select whether to show uncertainty. So if you say no, then you provide for each model forecast no uncertainty. So this is just the model's sort of best guess about what they think is going to happen. My preference is actually to look at these plots with 95% uncertainty. So what this is showing is for each model, you are given their 95% interval prediction for what they think is going to happen in the future. So these are within these bounds in the future. That's where they think the data are likely to lie. The next line down here allows you to either select all the models to show or none of the models. I'm not going to toggle that right now because I want to keep the set that I have there at the moment. If you go farther down in the legend, you can see that we have a bunch of different teams and their models for the forecast. If you go here, you can select or unselect a model. Maybe I should do this, none. Then we go here to say Lanel and IHME and say YYG, right? Now we can select which models that we actually have in the forecast so we can compare them. In addition to comparing models at a single point in time, one of the unique features of this particular dashboard, as opposed to many others that are out there, is the ability to go backwards in time and see what forecasts were, and to see how good those forecasts were if you go back in that time. So here, right, if you click on the back arrow, it'll move you backward in time. The right arrow will move you forward in time. Eventually you get to where there's no predictions because we don't even have the data there yet to make the predictions. But if you go backwards enough, right, you can start seeing, oh, maybe I should have mentioned, this green line over here is the actual, right? So this is the actual observed deaths. For this, we're using the Johns Hopkins data. There'll be a link in the description as well. And we know that there are differences between the different data sources. We just early on decided to use the Johns Hopkins data set. But if you go backward long enough in time, right, well, I guess I did remove some of the models. Anyway, so you can start determining which models were good and which models were poor historically, and therefore which models you might expect to be better or worse in the future. Similar to the way you might look at a stock return historically versus how it's going to do in the future, right? It's certainly no guarantee of success, but maybe indicative that they're more likely to succeed, something like that. As you saw as I was doing it, if you mouse over here, you get a little bit more information about the actual numbers. So these are for the point ahead predictions. This happens to be for the 4 week ahead predictions. So IHME predicting at its point estimate, right, 123,000 or so cumulative deaths. All right, but again, I want to emphasize that there's a large amount of uncertainty here in terms of what they think is actually going to happen. All right. Oh, I think the last thing I was going to mention over here is that if you next the model over on this, you can click on the Show Details button, and that Show Details button will bring you to the repository on GitHub that contains, in particular, the metadata that that team has provided. So that team provided some metadata, which tells you a bit of a description about what their model does. And importantly, it oftentimes provides a website where you can go to get more information about that team's forecast, and also likely a dashboard that they put together that presents the forecast in the way that they would like to present the forecast. All right, so this is, I'm hoping, the first in a series of videos about this forecast hub for COVID-19. If you are interested, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you would like to see in the future. Likely my plans are to talk a little bit about the individual models, but also to talk about each week what the different forecasts are saying and where we think we might be headed. So I hope you're all staying safe. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you.